What is going on, sports fans? John from Odyssey Sports coming back at you with another video. And today I'm going to be finally putting out the Harden video. And of course, I have two of my very good friends joining me, Sam and Nick. Sam, diehard Nets fan, as you can see by the hat. And of course, Holzer. I ran the podcast channel with him, John and Holzer Roundtable Sports. Don't forget to check that channel out, guys. I'm going to leave both these guys' channels in the description. You guys want to introduce yourselves to the channel?
I'm Sam. I was on last week talking some playoff predictions and talked a little bit about the draft, NFL draft. I'm a big Nets fan, obviously, and I'm excited to talk about the Harden trade today.
All right, so my name is Nick. I'm a Philly fan. So it's going to be hard to talk about the Nets because obviously the Sixers are in the same little, hopefully, playoff race with the Nets. So Harden, I don't know how it's going to make them. We'll see.
For those of you who don't know, of course, last week, about 6-7 days ago, James Harden got traded to the Brooklyn Nets from the Houston Rockets, and the Nets got James Harden and a 2024 second-round pick. The Rockets, in a three-team trade, of course, they got Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, and Rodion Kukoc. And the Rockets, they got, I don't even know how many picks. They got like 4 first-round picks. They gave all their draft capital away, and of course, Karis LeVert to the Pacers and Jarrett Allen to the Nets or to the
No,
Cavaliers.
to the Cavs, yeah.
They lost a lot of pieces for a big piece. James Harden is still a very good player in this league. He's 31 years old, but he's still super productive. What do you guys think about this trade?
Sam, since you're a Nets fan, let's you go first.
Since I'm a Nets fan, I will go last because of my input. I want you to go first, the Philly
All right.
fan.
Sixers
All
fan.
right. Starting off, I don't think this trade is going to work out long term for them. You're losing Jarrett Allen, Karis LeVert. But if you win now, that could be very good. Or obviously Brooklyn, they'll take all those picks traded and stuff. But I'm just worried about Kyrie. Basically, is my biggest concern right now because obviously James Harden and Kevin Durant is a better duo than Kyrie and KD, in my opinion. So if we need Kyrie to come back, or no, they need Kyrie to come back, and they need him to not be stupid and do basically what he's doing right now. And they need him to be
Objection,
the third.
real quick. He actually talked to the media today. He will be playing tomorrow.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that he's going to be playing.
And he said he sought help for he was dealing with stuff mentally. So this was just not like a Kyrie Irving thing. He was dealing with some real personal issues. So it's not like he's just pulling. He doesn't want to play basketball.
All right. Well, I respect that, but still, that could be an issue that
I agree.
that is moving forward. But he's going to have to take the third role, honestly, in my opinion, because I think that Kevin Durant is the second option. Harden's going to become the first option. He's going to dribble it up. I mean, they're going to have.
Completely disagree with you on that one.
Yeah, I think a few days ago he said that he's working on his point guard skills or whatever. So I think they're really going to have Harden be the point guard.
He is going to be the point guard, but he's not going to be the number one scoring option. Kevin Durant is going to be the number one scoring option. He will be. I mean,
well, I guess we'll wait and see.
Harden's had double-digit assists in both his starts so far.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had 14 assists and 12 in yesterday's game, and Kevin Durant had 42 and 30. So it's just Kevin Durant is the main guy. He's going to get his shots. He's going to get more shots than Harden. Well, maybe not, but he's going to be the team's leading scorer in my opinion. I think Harden's ready to take back a role because I've been watching him play, and he's not doing the same thing he's done in Houston through the first 2 games. He's moving the ball more. He's not really doing a lot of the step back threes. He's done a couple, and they've gone in. He's just kind of finding his spots. He's finding Joe Harris on the wing. He's finding DeAndre Jordan for lobs. He's finding Bruce Brown underneath. He's trying to find other players right now, and I think he's going to continue. I think he will be the point guard. I don't know. I mean, Kyrie might come back and he might be point guard. I don't know, but I think Harden's a better passer. But I mean, yeah.
Well, Kyrie is usually best when he has the ball, so that's why it's going to be hard to see and hard to tell what's going to happen. Because we honestly don't know with like 3 or I guess 2 really like big predominant ball handlers.
Let me ask you a question. Who did Kyrie Irving win an NBA Finals with?
LeBron. But
what does LeBron play?
LeBron is
Point
different.
Forward.
LeBron is different than James Harden.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, but Kyrie is used to being the second option. He's used to being a lower
maybe
option.
he did leave LeBron, so he could be the guy.
He didn't leave LeBron because he didn't like being the second option. He left LeBron because he didn't like playing with LeBron. There were some issues there with how he felt he was treated at Cleveland. I don't think it was really because he was the second option. I
Do you
think there
think
was
he's the
behind the
third
scenes stuff.
option now?
I would say he's the third option. And
Is
this
he
is what I'm
gonna
going to
like
say to
that?
you. Sean Marks came out with a press conference, and he was on call with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant when this trade was going down, and James Harden too. And they said they brought to Sean Marks. He said, "You don't have to worry about us taking sacrifices. We will do whatever we can to win. We will make this work." So I think Kyrie Irving is. That's from what I'm hearing, he wants to buy in. It could be a completely different story, but what I'm hearing, he's going to buy in. He's going to take that lesser role. Not saying he's gonna be lesser. There's gonna be some games where he's got 50.
Oh.
You know, there's gonna be games where he's got 35 and 10. You know, that's the scary part of the Nets is the Nets rotation, if rotated right, will have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, or James Harden on the floor at all times in the NBA game.
That's a dangerous trio, no doubt.
Because Kyrie Irving can run with the bench guys if he wants to. James Harden can run with anyone on the floor. I mean, watching Nets play, if you add Kyrie's speed and technical ability with the basketball, the Nets will be the best offense in the league by far. No one's going to be able to guard them.
Yes, for sure.
Because then you're going to have to guard Kevin Durant. Your number one guy is going to Kevin Durant by far. Your number one guy.
It's going to be hard
unless
to
you're the
stop
Bucks.
him.
Unless you're the Bucks, because Giannis is too afraid to guard anyone. And then the second guy's going to go on James Harden. And two guys don't have three NBA teams don't have three guys that can guard three superstars.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Nets are going to be able to run right through people offensively. Defensively, that's a completely different story. Not necessarily. Here's a stat for you. DeAndre Jordan last night when he was on Giannis per possession was held to 0.78 points a game. Points per possession, which is like a season low for Giannis being guarded. So
do you think that they can continue that? Because I think that the Nets are going to have to score between 120 and 140 points to win most nights. And in my opinion,
I think they can. I think they can because, you have three superstars, but who's the fourth best scorer on the Nets? Can anyone tell me?
Joe Harris.
Joe Harris. Yeah. Joe Harris is averaging 15 a game right now. If you sag off on Joe Harris, if you sag off on Joe Harris, it's going to be over. He's going to hit every single corner three almost. Mm-hmm. So the Nets offensively, he's not a bad defender. He's not like a great defender, but he can defend. DeAndre Jordan can only defend, I guess.
Rebound.
Kevin Durant can really defend. He's actually a really good defender. Mm-hmm. James Harden, when he wants to, can play some defense. Post defense, he's really good at.
Yeah.
Kyrie, I mean,
and he gets in the passing lanes.
Yeah,
it's a lot of steals.
So what are the Nets gonna do though? Because they have that big three, and like you said, Sam, all three of those guys might be playing on the court at the same time, and that's a scary thought. Joe Harris, he's a really good shooter, and DeAndre Jordan, even though he's up there in age, he's still a good defensive player. But I really wonder what's gonna go on with the bench because the Nets have a lot of guys that people have never heard of. Obviously Landry Shamet, Holzer, you're familiar with him. He was over on the Sixers a couple years ago. You have guys like Spencer Dinwiddie on the bench, Jeff Green. He's a good defensive player. I mean,
Jeff Green starts.
He does start. Does he really?
Actually, no. I think what we could see a lineup. I think late in games, I think we could see Kyrie, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Joe Harris, and then Jeff Green at center.
I mean,
full 5-out offense.
Expectations for this bench, though. I mean, how much?
So, as a Nets fan, the best player on the bench right now, you guys probably don't know who he is Bruce Brown. He is a shooting guard, point guard-ish, and he can defend the lights out. He's clamps. He's actually really good at defense, and he's a really good finisher. I think in his first two starts for the Nets this season, he started a couple of games. He had 15 points, then 16 points. So he knows he's not a good shooter. He can't really shoot the ball, but he can hit a three every now and then. He hit a clutch three against the Magic for us. So Bruce Brown would be a guy to watch out for. And another thing that's not being talked about enough, the Nets have 3 wide open roster spots right now for free agents. So we could bring in a couple of vets. I would see buyouts. So I think JaVale McGee, I think he's on the Nets radar.
That'd
He'd
be a
be a
big
really good
signing.
backup center. He'd be a really good backup center
Big
for
buyout.
us.
Yeah.
They could bring back Aronde Hollis Jefferson for the culture.
Nah, that's not happening.
You never know. You need defense.
How much cap space do they have though?
These guys will sign on mints. These guys aren't going to get, these guys are going to sign on mints. These guys are going to want to be ring chasers. I mean, if you're playing with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, you have a pretty good chance at winning a ring,
Right.
or at least going to the finals. So,
I mean, they're the favorites. I mean, but you have other teams in the East, like the Sixers, obviously, and the Bucks. I mean, really, how realistic is it for the Nets to win the East? Do you guys think?
Oh, it's, in my opinion, they're probably going to win it more than, I'd say give them at least a 75% chance, but unless there's an injury or anything. But I don't think Milwaukee can touch the Nets.
Okay.
I'm not high on Milwaukee at all. I think they're just an overrated team every year.
I agree.
I think Giannis is such an overrated player, in my opinion. He's Defensive Player of the Year, and yet won't guard the best offensive player on an NBA basketball team. So he's all about mean mugging, acting like I'm the best player on the court when you're really not. Kevin Durant's the best player in the Eastern Conference. He's arguably the best player in the NBA this year. The way he's been playing, Stephen A. Smith said today that he's his NBA MVP pick. I mean, he's averaging 34, I think 30.4 points per game and like 7 assists a game and 5 rebounds.
He's coming off an Achilles injury. I mean, that was 18 months ago. I mean, dude, looks like he hasn't aged at all, in my opinion. I'm not as big on basketball as you guys are, but I mean, I love watching Kevin Durant, and it doesn't look like he's taking a step back. But I mean, what about the Sixers? Did the Sixers have any chance against the Brooklyn Nets?
I feel like the Sixers are the only team that has a chance against the Nets.
Okay.
Because I think if Embiid and Simmons stay healthy, I think Embiid could really put in some work on that team. Simmons could easily put in work on that team. Depends. If we have all of our shooters healthy, I think that there's a chance, but it's honestly basically probably not going to happen because the Nets are really talented, but we'll see.
As a Nets fan, the greatest opposition in my mind is the Bucks. I think the Sixers we could run through fairly easily.
Okay.
I think we would torch the Celtics. I think we could against the Celtics.
I don't think the Celtics are.
The Heat are interesting because you know how they played last year, but they're just not playing as well this year.
They play really stingy defense, though. I mean, that could be a tough. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's a tough matchup, but they, in a 7-game series, I can see them bringing it to 5-6 games.
Yeah. The reason why I don't think the Sixers are the best, going to be the biggest opponent for the Nets is because I think there's going to be some chemistry issues there with the Sixers because this is a story that isn't talked about enough. Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle were contacted the night of James Harden trade saying you were being traded to the Rockets. The deal was done. They were going to go to the Rockets, and the Sixers already told them that. But then the Nets came in because the Rockets didn't want to trade James Harden to the Sixers because of Daryl Morey. So the Nets came in and got James Harden. So now, and Ben Simmons isn't the type of guy who's going to take that lightly. And Joel Embiid is not the nicest person in the world. No. These guys are going to experience struggles with how Ben Simmons shoots the ball. He's basically a worse Giannis. That's basically what Ben Simmons is. He's a worse Giannis. And I think the Nets would I would put KD on him. He's not going to do much on you. Just sag off every single time. Double team and beat in the post like we did against when we played you. Make the Sixers shooter shoot. The Seth Curry's dangerous. That's going to be a dangerous part. I mean, we got Joe Harris and we got all those guys too. And I just don't see who's going to guard anyone on the Nets. I think the greatest opposition in NBA is the Lakers. I'm very terrified of the Lakers because they have LeBron and AD. And I think the Nets have the East in the bag. Hopefully,
that's my Clippers too. Clippers, if they make it out of the West, I think the Clippers can be dangerous.
I would rather have the Clippers beat the Lakers in the conference finals and play the Nets in the finals than play the Lakers.
Yeah,
that's my opinion because I'm just scared of AD because AD could just wreck us.
What was your thoughts on that?
I think that Kawhi and Paul George could put the clamps down a little bit on the Nets, but I don't know about that for sure.
Here's my thing. Okay, that's two really good defenders, and okay, that's Patrick Beverley, a third. Okay, who's Kawhi gonna mark? He's gonna mark KD. Paul George is gonna take probably
Harden.
Yeah, and then Pat Bev would be on Kyrie. I would take those odds, to be honest with you. I don't think Kawhi Leonard can stop Kevin Durant. I don't think anyone can. The way he shoots the ball contested is unbelievable. I have never seen someone so smooth, a smooth jumper like Kevin Durant. Paul George is Paul George. If he's not getting it going on the offensive end, he's not going to be able to get it going on the defensive end. And then Pat Bev, I mean, he's a good defender, but is he really going to do that much on Kyrie Irving? We'll see. But yeah.
And they're down Montrez. I mean, they don't have Montrez anymore, and that's definitely going to hurt them on the bench. So, I agree with you. Holz, anything else more to add, my guy? I mean, Sam just basically bashed your Sixers. What do you got to say about that? You're not
I
gonna.
mean, we'll just wait and see. It's hard because that team is so talented. That's why I gave him at least a 75% chance to win.
Right.
At least right now to win the East. We'll see what happens with Kyrie. I think if Kyrie ends up not playing or some reason something happens, I think those odds go down a little bit, but they're still pretty high because that team is very, very good, especially with Joe Harris, Kevin Durant. Even if they take Kyrie completely out, they still have Shamet on the bench. Dinwiddie can move into the starting lineup if they want.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Dinwiddie's out for the year.
Oh, really? What happened?
Yes, he partially tore his ACL.
Oh wait, we forgot about that. But still,
But
they still have.
There is talk that he will be. He's kind of stated that he is trying to get back by the playoffs. So,
I mean, it's possible. It's just hard with such a short season, you know.
Yeah, it is a shorter season
Don't
this
take
season.
ACL injuries lightly, and I'm really rooting for Dinwiddie.
Yeah.
But what I was talking about earlier, I mean, the Nets gave away some pretty big pieces, two young guys in Karis LeVert and Jarrett Allen. I like Jarrett Allen a lot. He's a really stingy defensive player. It's hard for guys to score on him, and he's good in the paint. I mean, and then you have James Harden. He's 32. KD's 31, and Kyrie's almost on the wrong side of 30. I mean, how does that affect?
Is it Kyrie's 28? I think
He's 28. He's on the edge of 29. But I mean, in a year and a half, he's going to be 30 years old, and that he's going to start regressing. I mean, how does that hurt the Nets in the long run?
I don't think it does because, well, it may. I mean, you guys know how much I was high on Karis LeVert and Jarrett Allen. Karis LeVert is my favorite net I've ever watched. He's my favorite net of all time. And Jarrett Allen is up there too. But these guys are superstars. They're not just gonna hit 30 and be like, "Oh, I'm done." Right. You know, Kevin Durant, almost in a way, his Achilles injury gave him a year off. That's a year off of NBA of a long NBA season with a shorter one this year.
Yeah.
And he doesn't rely on his athleticism like Giannis or Giannis, for example, Westbrook. Exactly. He's always going to be able to shoot the ball lights out. He will always be able to find his spots on the floor. He'll always be able to shoot. James Harden is James Harden. I mean, he's another superstar that I just don't see really declining in the next 2 to 3 years. Kyrie Irving's 20. I think, is he 27 or 28? I think he's 27
in March, so he's 28 right now. He's almost 29.
Yeah, so I think he'll be. I think this will be okay.
He's almost 29.
If I was a Nets fan, I wouldn't be able to. I mean, of course, Kyrie took time off for his mental health, his family, and I understand that. Everybody deserves that. You're making millions of dollars, but you're going in and night out, putting all your, everything on the floor, working your ass off, and you're trying to win a chip ultimately. And I mean, I understand why Kyrie did that, and I don't knock him for it. But I mean, how much can you trust Kyrie as a Nets fan? Just with his antics and everything that's been going on in the past few years with him.
I'll tell you what. I trust Kyrie Irving because of one man, Kevin Durant.
Okay.
Kevin Durant recruited him to this team. If Kevin Durant didn't think Kyrie would be reliable, he wouldn't have gone to the Nets.
Right.
He would have gone with Kawhi and the Clippers. That's where he would have gone.
I would have been
now you got two. Now the thing is, if Kyrie takes a couple games off, you have James Harden and Kevin Durant. Yeah. You have those guys.
They're still playing lights out without Kyrie too.
I think the Nets are a finals team without Kyrie. But going back to your future thing, the Nets gave away a lot of picks. Yeah. This is how I look at it. So we gave away, I think, 7 first-round picks, but technically it's only 3. We gave away 3 because 4 of them are pick swaps. Mm-hmm. So technically, the way pick swap works, if you don't know, Casey. So if the Nets have a worse record than the Rockets can take that pick, and the Nets would take the Rockets pick. So to say the Rockets have the best record in the NBA, so they get the 30th pick, and the Nets are the worst in a couple of years. The Rockets can switch the 30th pick to the first pick, and the Nets would have the 30th pick, and the Rockets have the first.
Right.
So it's a pick swap this year. The Rockets are to keep their pick. They're not going to be very good. The Rockets aren't very good. Next year, it's the Nets' first-round pick, which should be another 25 to 30 range. And then it's interesting to see if Kevin Durant and James Harden and Kyrie all sign again, then I think you're looking at 2 more years after that with picks that are non-existent. So that's 4 years. So now you have 2 more pick swaps and 1 actual pick. So, and the Rockets, I think at that point are going to be terrible because these aren't going to be that good of picks. And you have to hit with those picks. It's not like you're getting like if they got Ben Simmons, that's a guy you can build around. They don't have anyone really to build around on their roster. No one's that young. No one's gonna be a superstar.
Right.
So the way I look at it, the picks I'm fine with it. I think looking at it, 4 of them being pick swaps is a real bargain. And I think the 3 first rounders we gave are in the right years where you don't really have to worry about it.
Okay. All right. I mean, when I saw the news breaking, I mean, again, I'm not knowledgeable on basketball like you guys, but I didn't think it was a bad trade. I mean, the Nets gave up a lot, but I mean, it's win now or bust, and I don't really see them busting. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I have faith in this.
Watching James Harden play these first 2 games as a Brooklyn Net, he was worth everything we gave up for him.
I feel
everything.
I feel like they honestly didn't even give up that much for him, if I'm being honest.
A
few weeks ago, they would have given up way more.
You're like, whoa. Yeah.
But all I'm saying is dangerous team. But I just hope, well, I guess you guys as a Nets fan are hoping that they could protect the rim. And I guess defense is going to be their thing. That's like the question mark on this team.
Yeah.
And that's why free agency comes in. The buyout market comes into big play because you get a guy like Jabal McGee. There's your shot blocker off the bench. There's your 7-footer. He's been around. He's done it. He's a professional. He's won NBA. He's won an NBA championship. I think he won it twice. But I would love Jabal McGee. I know the Raptors just got rid of Alex Lenz. I don't know if he's that good, but that's another guy to look at. I think he's a 7-footer. He can shoot a little bit. Dwayne Dedmon's another one. So the Nets roster right now is not even near complete. I think Sean Marks makes at least 1 more trade somehow.
Yeah, I think that will.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't. I would think that we would trade Shamet, to be honest with you. He has not been providing off the bench. I think these next 10 games are really important for him because he's been doing terrible. So
I think one big problem that the Nets are having without Kyrie is James Harden. He is playing himself back into game shape, but he's playing a lot of minutes.
How many minutes is he playing?
He played 41 versus the Bucks in his first game. He played 40 against the Magic.
Wow. So
that's a lot of minutes. I mean,
Where did he play on the Rockets? I mean, it's not like he's coming off an injury.
So 31 versus Lakers, 38 versus Lakers, and 31. So he is having a little bit of a jump in minutes, but we'll see when Kyrie comes back. That's what I want.
Well, I think those times against the Lakers, they were blowouts. So
yeah, probably.
I think the last one they played was a blowout. So that his minutes are gonna be down.
So 39, 38, 38, 31, 40. So he's around there, a little bit higher minutes. But I think when Kyrie comes back, his minutes will come down a little bit. And also, I'm sure they're also trying to get him into better shape.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, he looks so fat when he's on the Rockets, and then now he looks super skinny. It's a weird. He's
motivated now.
It's like
he's motivated.
Suit over there in Houston. Like
I'm telling you, it's the tuck-in. The tuck-in doesn't do you justice. If you tuck in your shirt, you look bigger.
He slimmed down a lot. It looks like he lost like damn near 20 pounds.
And it's so weird.
He's motivated to play.
I'm like Katie and Harden. I mean, usually in any sport, you hit 30 years old, you're gonna start regressing, and those guys, they're the exception. They're playing so good. I just
LeBron.
I think LeBron's the
LeBron
exception.
too, of course, yeah, but
Tom Brady.
Chris Paul.
Chris Paul, yeah, exactly. It's got to be exciting time to be a Nets fan, and Sam's endured the worst, and we've heard about it. And I'm
My first year watching the Nets, we went 20-62,
that's
Brutal.
appalling.
and the Celtics got our first pick.
Oh, you could add Tatum.
Yeah, but I think we would have drafted Fultz. So
Yeah, well, we took care of that for you, Sam.
yeah.
All right,
Oh,
guys. I'm gonna wrap it up. But any final thoughts?
Sixers
No.
and 5.
Sixers and 5.
I'm just kidding.
Another
I'm
hot
Nets
just-
and 4. Nets and 4.
Nets and
Yeah.
4. That's more realistic, Holzer.
It probably is,
Sam.
but hey, you never know. Maybe we turn
If the
out. Maybe
Sixers-
we win
if the-
one.
If the Sixers beat the Nets in 5 games, I will burn every Nets thing I have.
I bet.
Hey.
We'll see. All right, boys. Again, thank you guys for coming on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to these two guys. The links will be in the channel. Sam is the Borough. Holzer is Citywide Page 881 on YouTube. Go check those guys out. And again, thank you for watching. This is John from Odyssey Sports with Sam and Holzer. Don't forget to comment, leave a like, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later.
Yeah.
Go Nets.